Hello, welcome to the Yaoi Shelf, where both your
Hello.
hosts are struggling.
Some of us, more than others.
You may notice that I've never been more high def, and Carola looks like the grainy footage that Bigfoot enthusiasts find in their backyard.
Yeah. My laptop stopped charging again, despite having been off for surgery for over a month, and then they sent
Yes.
it back with the same problem. So on Thursday, it stopped charging, and I am now using um, the convention laptop that we use for writing meeting minutes and running FMVs. So yeah,
Thank you,
things are
Totokan.
great. Thank you, Torukan. If you are audio only, you're probably better off, honestly.
No, I like Cryptid Cam Carola and like the glossiest I've ever been.
I mean, you look amazing. You're just
I,
like I love that I have like the ring light is like
yes,
pointing straight towards me on like the
right.
highest level, and it looks like I am inside a cave. It is so fucking dark.
Carola looks like she's in those like French catacombs where there's all the bones. And I'm over here looking like a flawless anime villain.
You're amazing.
Just,
I didn't bother with anything today. I was like, no one's gonna see my face anyway. It doesn't
just
matter.
dewy and bright. I look like I stole someone's soul.
Yeah, it was mine. You
It was
stole
like
mine.
I stole
You
Carolla's
stole
soul.
my laptop soul. I'm so upset. It just stopped charging on Thursday night, and I was like, I am not in in any way or capacity able to deal with this right now.
Nope.
No
So,
one's going to be able to fix this over the weekend, so here we
nope.
are.
So, welcome to the Yaoi Shelf. Grab a seat and relax. This is also where we say at the top of the show we are on Patreon, so Carola can afford laptop repair.
I can't live like this. I think it's just the charger.
You think?
That yeah, hopefully. And I ordered a new one, and hopefully it will arrive before the end of next week. I don't know. I can't live like this. But yeah, please support us on Patreon. I need it. I am in the
Yeah,
richest
specifically
country in the
Carola.
world, and I have no money.
What is that one meme from that movie? It's like, "Help me, I'm poor." Like,
It's me. And you know what the irony is? I
please.
was doing my very best this month to spend as little money as possible because Sansa has another tooth
Appointment.
extraction coming out,
Yes.
and there are all of these things happening. And I was like, I am going to buy as little as possible. I'm going to eat the food in my freezer, and then it's like, oh, I have to buy a new laptop charger. Thank you. And the only one that fits with my laptop is, of course, the expensive one. I was
Of
like,
course.
fuck my life. So yeah, we're on
Uh,
Patreon because we are heavily demonetized and poor.
we're about to be super demonetized today.
Oh
Uh,
my god!
we are.
Yeah, we're
Oof.
getting into it today.
We are. Oh boy.
I've had an eventful week, and not on account of the laptop. I'll tell you that. I've done some reading.
Yeah. uh, so, we're here to talk about the absolute roller coaster of the oeuvre of mangaka Nakamura Asumiko. And we're here specifically to talk about one thing that was very, very important and caused a lot of, I'm going to say conflict, but like soft conflict in early BL fandom, and even to this day, which is recommending titles.
Ugh. Yeah.
Because sometimes you have a mangaka like Nakamura Sensei, where you come in on one work, and I guess don't look at anything else.
And I
So,
think,
yes,
and I think for a lot of people, they didn't.
exactly.
Which, yeah.
So, this is not meant to be like a comprehensive, body of work. This is mostly about that roller coaster effect that fans have gone through. So here's where we're gonna put a big old trigger warning on this episode.
We
Uh,
are not kidding.
we're literally not kidding. Uh, we're gonna be talking about some stuff limited to but not including racism, incest, murder, homophobia,
Anti-Semitism,
anti-Semitism,
sexual assault,
so much sexual assault,
domestic abuse.
so much domestic abuse, just
Oh.
abuse, just violence.
It's not funny.
It's not.
It's just a list you don't understand. If you haven't read this mangaka's work, this list,
And especially because yes,
psychological trauma.
yeah. Well, and especially because okay, so let's first briefly go over the mangaka. Started in 2000 as an author. Their most famous work, people would say, is Classmates,
Yeah.
which only really recently wrapped up. But I have a feeling that we're going to keep getting sequels until the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, because I thought it wrapped up with Occupation Beloved when that
Yes.
came out, like in I don't know, like 2011 or something. But then there was they released something new in the series just this year, or like
Yeah,
2022, which is still going, I think.
yeah. So most people at this phase, if you say the name Nakamura Asumiko, they would point to Classmates.
Hmm.
This creator has created manga across multiple genres, including shoujo, mystery, and boys' love. Carola, do you want to put in your note about anthology contributions?
Yeah, they have also done contributions to various anthologies, such as the official Sarasanmai manga anthology,
Mhm.
which it's a very short one shot. It's like 4 pages,
Mhm.
and it hurts like a bitch. And
Everything hurts.
and they also contributed to Parasite F, which is an anthology based on the Parasite manga, which came out in like the early 2000s. But Parasite F, I think, came out last year.
Yes.
It's disturbing. Naturally.
It's not my favorite. Absolutely known for the most beautiful flowing art style. I think up there with like Hoshino Lily, of just like everyone is a gorgeous doll.
But they're also like it's such a unique style, you know.
It is
so
very unique.
I think for me, it took a while to get used to, because like it's like you say, like it's really pretty. It's like really flowy, but it's also kind of wonky in a way. Like I wouldn't call it sexy. I think if you're reading BL because you want to
Yeah.
see hot dudes getting it on, it's not like the most sexually gratifying
Yeah, I would agree. Like,
drawing style, but it's very pretty, and like
yes.
it really works for a lot of like even a lot of the fan works, because if you look at the Sarasanmai anthology, I think that the way that Nakamura sensei draws Mabu is perfect. Like it's like Mabu
Yes.
was made for sensei's art style.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, well, yeah, because like if you look at Mabu, like Mabu is a character that Nakamura Sensei would write.
Mabu could have been
Mabu,
in Classmates.
Mabu easily could have been a background character in Classmates, and no one would have had any questions.
Mabu could be Sajo. Let's be honest. Like
He
it's
could.
the same face.
He could.
Yeah.
Also, Ryo wasn't there because Nakamura Sensei clearly has some issues with people of color.
Yeah. I don't.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I've been through a lot this week. It's like I have read most of these before, but there was something about reading all of it back to back that was a little much, and they're kind of blending together. And I'm
Welcome
like,
to what I went through in college.
why did you do this to yourself? No, but and I say that like I've enjoyed the reads, but it's a lot. Like
Yeah,
these are some
it's-
heavy manga. Like I put
They
a
are.
note. I put a note in there about how Nakamura Sensei isn't primarily an author of BL.
Yes.
Because I think Dokusei classmates is like the only
Like
BL
overt
centric,
BL.
yeah,
Exactly.
and then the rest tends to focus on different genres, but
Yes.
heavily on the like psychological aspect.
Yes.
Like I haven't read the Utsubora manga, the one that's about an author. I haven't read that one yet, but I see that
Mhm.
that is also classified as psychological and seinen.
Yes. Kind of gives me vibes of like Basso a little bit of
Mm.
like this is everything but BL, but there's a lot of gay shit happening.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
everything but BL, but there is a lot of gay shit going on. Just reference Basso in 2024.
I think this
Uh,
is your first mention of Basso
it
in
is not
2024.
because I
Actually.
talked
No,
about
in 2024.
2024. Yes,
I don't think you've mentioned Basso yet this year,
I love
actually.
Basso so much. We're running away from Nakamura Sensei because it hurt
Yeah,
us.
I wonder why.
We're running away from the plot because it hurt us.
And I say that with love.
Right, like
You
if we say
know?
this, so here's where we have to put on like another like soft, like not really like a warning, but like a message. None of this is a value judgment. I feel like we say that every episode. Like if we go over, like if any of these works are one of your favorites, one, are you in therapy? Two, one, are you in therapy, or have you sought help? Two, like we both fully understand why you would like these works. Nakamura Sensei's work is complex and fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, but I think like, that's why we're focusing on the roller coaster aspect and not necessarily like the wider oeuvre. Like we're here to talk about especially the limitations that older fans sometimes have with younger fans when it comes to recommending. Because again, at this stage, if you say the name Nakamura Asumiko in a crowd, you're gonna get classmates.
Yeah.
And if you're like us, Carola and I both are in these like relative positions of power, especially in our relative communities, and someone, some poor, sweet, innocent youth pads up to you and is like, I really love classmates. Is there anything else by this mangaka that you can recommend?
No.
No.
Not for you.
Not
No.
for you. Not for you. Come back in 10 years after an alcohol addiction.
Or like first of all, how old are you? And second, how do you feel about getting your heart ripped out through your throat? Like, what is your tolerance to certain topics? Maybe you want to hold off on this a little bit, like just reread
Uh,
Classmates,
just
maybe.
just reread Classmates and its 35 sequels. There you go. You should have some reading for a good long while. Just keep rereading Classmates. Don't ask any
Yeah.
questions. Don't worry about it. Because it also, jumping the gun a little bit, it kind of reminds me of Harada a little bit. Because
I
I know,
love
like,
Hana.
I,
Which,
Pearl, we are the same person.
but
I
we
also
have
love
good
Harada.
taste. Yeah.
But, like, One Room Angel is coming out. And it's like, is there anything else by Harada that I could read? No. Or, like, Happy Crappy Life, which is really, really good. And, like, probably, like, their most, at this stage, like, well-known popular series. Don't go and read Yoru and Asa. You're not emotionally ready for that.
Oh no.
Yoru and Asa is my favorite.
I probably read some of that back in the day,
Oh, you
but
have.
yeah, but like I can't remember much because now I am hoarding the volumes and waiting for them to be completed, and I haven't read
So,
any of those in so long.
right. So, enough foreplay.
there's
What was that?
never
Defeated.
there's never enough foreplay, Amanda.
Well, I mean, we're using Classmates as foreplay, so that's about as much as we're gonna get. That's that's the equivalent of like spitting on your partner's hole or something. We're not demonetized. Don't worry about it.
I don't even think you can see my thumb. It's like blending in with
We
the
can
wall. This is so sad.
This is, and it's only sad because I've never looked better.
This is hilarious. I mean, at least I have a new mic stand. So,
Like it's only, what makes it sad is that I broke out my newer webcam and I just look like Naraku after feasting on souls.
I thought you looked like sharper than usual.
I know it's just
Wow.
good eating last night. So we're going to talk about Classmates. Carola, would you like to go over the official synopsis?
Okay, hang on. Let me just read it from the iPad since I don't want to switch tabs because then I'll probably crash this entire computer.
Please don't,
Okay,
ma'am.
the official synopsis. Hikaru always thought his classmate Rihito was kind of a snob until he stumbles across Rihito secretly practicing a song in an empty classroom. Hikaru agrees to become Rihito's music tutor even, and with each lesson, the two boys grow closer. But when Hikaru realizes that he's fallen for Rihito, will they stay classmates or become something more?
So this is like the sweetest boys' love that I think I've ever read and still actively enjoy.
Have you
Which
read all of it?
I have.
Mm.
So fun fact, when my ex and I were still together, you know, because he was overseas, we'd always talk about like what is the first thing that we want to watch together because we were like soppy and in love. And he said the first thing he wanted to watch together was the Classmates movie,
Ah.
which in hindsight, red flag on the field.
I mean, it's a sweet movie, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd read at least I think I'd read like the Classmates, like the 3 original volumes,
Mm-hmm.
and then back when they were being scanlated, and then I didn't read anything else until now, basically when they were
Right.
licensed and republished. So I actually read the final 2, Occupation Beloved, and then Blank. Blank is the final one. I said Occupation Beloved later, but Blank is the final one. And I read those for the first time this week, actually, which was
And it's cute. It's
yeah, but and like Blank is my favorite, but that is
Yeah.
also the one that is the most angsty. So because that one put me through the ringer. That one hurt a lot.
Yeah. So has spawned several sequels, and you can see why. Like that's one thing I will say that is good about Slice of Life is that it is very, very easy to spawn sequels and continuations of these stories. I also appreciate that this is one of the few like BL. Oh, spoiler warning, I guess. That this is one of the few BL series that like especially early on like ended in marriage and that it was okay and that like it showed a true progression of a relationship over the years,
Yeah.
not just, you know, oh, I found this guy, he's attractive, we fucked, now we're married.
Yeah,
Like,
and it like it follows them because it's like it's also like a coming of age story, so it
It
follows
is.
them through these different stages from, you know, being second years in high school and then
Mhm.
graduating and trying to find their position, you know, in a long distance relationship,
Mhm.
and both of them doing their own thing and then struggling, and it's one of those things where I've seen that it gets a lot of praise, like, you know, we're not going to get into all of that, but it does get a lot of praise for the realistic portrayal of like the
Yes.
struggles that gay men in Japan in particular have to
Mhm.
deal with, and when it comes to the whole marriage thing. And I thought that was interesting because again, the original series is from yeah, it started in 2006.
Yes.
And so when Blank comes out, when the serialization of the Blank stories, which is, you know, the marriage story,
Mhm.
they're actually talking about things that are relevant in Japanese politics and in Japanese society at that point, because they're starting to talk about when they mentioned marriage in the original storyline back in, you know, the original 3 volumes. It was that, you know, the one where you adopt your partner, which is how gay marriage is often conducted in Japan. But now they have to deal with, okay, but if we do that, what if they will expand the civil partnership law outside of,
Right.
say, Setagaya? What are we going to do then if we are already adopted? So it's kind of like
Yeah,
it
it's really
expands on those
interesting.
struggles. I think that's very interesting.
It's really fascinating. Like that's one thing that I will say. Like I've always kind of missed. Like don't get me wrong, I fully understand that like for a lot of people, BL is this escape, and we don't need to talk about politics or anything like that. But that's something that interests me,
Yeah.
especially in a well written story. That like no, you aren't just going to ride off into the sunset and get married. Like that's not how this works. Um, and I love classmates. I don't have it's fairly unproblematic except for some teacher nonsense.
Hara sensei, Sekuhara sensei.
It's mostly unproblematic.
Yeah, apart from a couple of teachers,
Yes.
it's relatively, it's
Well, and it's one of those things that like sometimes when you look at a mangaka's work, that was a weird wiggle. Sometimes when you look at a mangaka's work, you're like, how is this the popular one?
mm,
I completely understand why Classmates is the popular one. There is no
yeah.
part about me that is shocked, that doesn't understand, that doesn't get it. Because like, yeah, there's definitely mangaka where like you look at their like body of work and it's like, really, this one, this is the one we've chosen. Okay, oh, but there's no part of me that doesn't understand why Classmates is so popular, why it
Yeah.
lended so well to animation. I think the movie's gorgeous.
Mm,
um Her work pretty naturally lends very well to animation because it is so flowing and beautiful.
yeah.
The story is compelling and complex, but it never feels like it's condescending, and it's heavy but in like a real world emotional way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like it is a lot of like relationship angst, and it's like relationship angst that like you feasibly could go through or have
Yeah.
through your life, like, but so it isn't dealing with a lot of the heavier themes that she usually deals with. And I think it's important to say that even though Classmates in Japan started in 2006, we didn't really get it until likely I think around 2010.
Yeah, let's see when I have them right here, so I'm gonna check.
Mhm.
Uh, wait, it's in the back. 2008, published in Japan. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the first printing of the English localized first volume was 2019. So legally, we didn't get
Yeah.
it until
So,
2019.
so yeah, legally we didn't get it until 2019. I do remember reading it via One Piece methods. Oh, earlier than
Yeah,
that.
I remember it was when I was, in the Tumblr heyday around like
Yes.
2012, 13. It was really popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's about when I remember it because I was in college.
Mhm.
I've read actually all three of those of her works that we're going to talk about today in college.
What a great time you were having.
What a great, and please understand that like this is me at a Catholic university in a tiny dorm room all by myself.
Just going
Just
through it.
literally.
Like,
Literally. Um, so what I think also like that timing is important to mention with Classmates because again, a lot of these works that we're going to talk about are, I mean, I hate saying this, but Jano Subete is 20 years old.
do you have to do this to me?
Yes, it's a part of the soul stealing that I did
I
earlier.
mean, but like, I didn't read it 20 years ago. I read it maybe the parts that I know that I'd read maybe 10 years ago. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's been again college like 10 plus years, but like this is so when you think about like younger fandom or even just mainstream fandom, which I know that sounds super gatekeepery, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. They're looking at Classmates like this thing that just came out a couple of years ago.
yeah.
The thing that came out a couple of years ago. I remember that happening with Studio Ghibli a little bit in America. Where,
Yeah.
like, because we didn't always get those releases, especially on time, it was like, oh yeah, it's just Spirited Away and Howl's
Yeah.
Moving Castle,
And
and
then
it's
when they would release new ones, like you literally thought that they were just like mass producing these films because
and
they,
it's like no, this
because
movie's
no.
old.
But I I remember because when I was in Japan in 2016,
Mhm.
that was when they were doing the promotion for the Classmates movie, and
Yes.
I was I. The thing is, I think I'd been. When did they do the whole porn ban on Tumblr? That was later, right?
That was,
Or was it 2016?
I think it
It,
was
it's been
around
so long.
2016.
Yeah, because that would explain a lot. Because I, for some reason, hadn't caught on that they were making a movie, and I was so
Mhm.
confused because we went to Animate in Ikebukuro, the one that has the 7 floors and lots of it is
Mhm.
BL, and they had like this art gallery in the stairs where they had like stills from the movie and so much like
Mhm.
classmate official art, and I was so confused. I was like, why are they doing so much promo of this now?
Yeah,
Because I had no idea the movie was coming.
right.
And
And so when you again, like, so you ask a modern fan, it's like, oh, Nakamura Asumiko, they're gonna say classmates. They're gonna point you in the direction of classmates. And I think that
yeah.
it's super important to start with this because then if you get to older fans, we know her for a completely different reason.
I mean, I will say I do know her from Classmates. Like that was
Same.
also my entry, but I read other things increasingly this week. I mean, as I was preparing, as an
Mhm.
excuse, because you need to make excuses in your adult life. I was like,
Mhm.
we are doing the Nakamura Asumiko special. I'm going to buy Tales of the Kingdom. So I bought the first 3 volumes of Tales of the
Better than
Kingdom.
that fish impreg you sent me.
We have to talk about that at some point.
Do we? Do we, Carola?
I think we do,
Do
Amanda.
we? Because
Think it.
the message that I received during the Christian day, mind you, I'm at work. Daddy is literally working.
Listen, it was not in the middle of the Christian day for me. It was at
Okay.
night,
It was
and
the
I don't
middle of
believe
the
in God.
Christian it was the middle of the Christian day for me. Um Carola, this also, is this something we need to get more morbidly curious about? And it's a tweet that says, "There's double impreg, double, and he's an actual fish. I'm done," in reference to this manga titled "The Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish." So I get the message that this is something we need to get morbidly curious about. We talk some business, and I had to piece together that double impreg with an actual fish.
I'm still processing this myself, actually.
So,
Yeah.
that's what we've been dealing with. Uh,
You know, I am someone who, I support BL. I love BL, but sometimes you gotta ask yourself, have we gone too far? Like, is this was this necessary?
so there's a reason why we're starting with classmates. We're going to move on to Double Mints, which is actually a work that I remember recommending to someone because they said they liked classmates. And I remember saying, like, oh, this is one of the less fucked up ones.
Hmm. What?
Technically, it is less fucked up.
Where?
Technically.
I mean, I read like this week. I binged Classmates. I did Double Mints, Jane no Subete, and the first 3 volumes of Tales of the Kingdom, plus
Mm-hmm.
the anthologies. And I will say, Tales of the Kingdom is also fucked up, but significantly less fucked up than Double Mints.
Would you like to go over the official synopsis?
Yes. I mean, this one is a doozy. This manga
This
is
one's a
just.
mess.
Oh my god, wait, I scrolled too far. Okay.
Oh no.
We can't live without each other. You're my other half. I've killed a woman. The domineering voice on the phone was that of high school classmate Mitsuo Ichikawa. Buried memories from the past resurface in the heart of a man with the same name, Mitsuo Ichikawa. It drags him right back to the passions of the past, They reunite as accomplices, yet their relationship as master and servant slowly changes into something new. And I don't know what that new thing is, because this is a mess.
Um, there is what they would define as romance.
Yeah.
I, Carola, I can't help you. I didn't write this. This isn't me. I didn't do this.
You know, you could.
I could have, yes.
I mean, I think, and I genuinely mean this, I don't think I'm intelligent enough to understand double mints properly. I think
yeah,
it is so hard to understand.
it is.
And it is not helped by the fact that the two main characters have the exact same name,
yes,
written in different kanji,
yes,
but the same name. And I was trying to like pin them down with nicknames because one of them is sometimes referred to as Mitsu-chan and the other is referred to as Mitsuo-kun, but then they're both Mitsuo-kun. And then I'm just like, you know what? I don't know what's happening here. One has blonde hair, one has dark hair. Such is the Nakamura sensei formula.
Just fucking loves that. Just.
Also,
I love to put all of her MCs in a room. They'd kill each other. Well, no, they'd kill the boys from Classmates. They'd all gang up.
I think that maybe Hara Sensei could last a little while.
They would just gang up and murder those poor two boys.
Oh, those boys would be gone so fast. It's just no.
It'd be like something out of Devilman. They would tear
Oh my god! You know that scene? You know that scene in Devilman when he goes to the party or like the nightclub or whatever, and then they start getting that.
Poor boys. Just.
Oh god, no! Oh my god, it's just awful. But do you know that there's a live action movie?
What?
There's a live action Double Mints movie.
Okay, I guess I need to add that to my weekend watching on top of X-Men 97.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I thought I'd watched it, but it turns out that I just found it and then never saw it because I wanted to read the manga, and then I read the manga, and then I was like, this is confusing as hell. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. It's
good. I'm sure.
It's gonna be interesting for sure.
Yes. So
maybe I'll be able to separate them then.
Maybe. Supplements is legally a mystery thriller.
Yeah.
Very, very psychological, very, very cerebral.
Yeah.
I feel like I like some like fucked up true crime, like Criminal Minds and stuff like that. Double Mints is like that's a little much even for me, where it's just like, oh, okay, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. Cool.
Yeah, and I think it's very much about a power struggle.
It is.
Because it's like the one Mitsuo is the other guy's dog, but then he's kind of subverting the whole thing because he kind of holds the reins after. But it's like, it's so messy.
Messy's the best word for it. It's just messy.
It's not relationship goals.
No. Wow. Controversial and brave statement.
Wow.
Wow. Brave.
You
brave
get the hot
statements.
takes over here. Like
brave and controversial statement. A pair of men who have the same name doing some double murder. That is not relationship goals.
And then it's like there's a murder, but then it isn't a murder, but then there's another.
If you think we're being vague, it's not because we're being vague. It's because we physically still don't understand it.
Yeah, I literally read it the other day, and I read it before, and I was just like, I don't.
But I remember recommending this to someone, and saying this is not as fucked up, and not that it isn't. It's just fucked up in its own weird way. And I'm fascinated about it. So again, it's that issue of recommendation. So if because Double Mints came out in 2009. Again, I remember reading it by piracy methods in 2000. I want to say 2010, 2011.
Mm.
Again, when I was in college. Uh, if you ever want to wonder what I was like in college, I was just reading so much manga, just so much. And I was president of the anime club. I had a chocolate fountain in my dorm.
I mean, truly living the dream. Like
Just
those sound amazing though. I do imagine you just like sitting in a corner reading like Double Mints and Jade Osubeta while eating chocolate and like crying.
so I think
Crying in your chocolate fountain.
I read Double Mints. So I used to stay in these dorms that were for the most devout of the brothers, the priests that lived on my campus. So it really was just like a small closet, a sink, a desk with like two little shelves and a bed. Like tiny room. I like if I put my arms out, I could touch either side. Tiny,
Wow.
tiny, small room. And I remember reading Double Mints. I had just won a fish from the local fair, and
A
I named him
fish?
a fish. His name was Zyle,
Okay.
after the character from Bleach.
Of course.
Shut up!
No, I'm not. I'm still stuck on the fish. Okay.
I I I
Now
want
is
I
what.
won a fish named Zyle Apodogrons. Um, and he watched me read Double Mints in one night in the dark. Just
I mean, it is a one shot. It is. It's one of the. It's a one volume.
it
Manga.
is.
So it's
It
it's
is.
it is, and I'm using quotation marks. It is a quick read in the
Sure.
sense that you can read it quickly.
And it will stay with you for the remainder of your life.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
lot. Like
it's
you put in the in the outline. Get ready for every twist you can ever think of, and I think that that is
like just literally every fucking twist. Like every twist that you can think of happens in this like slim thing of a read. And I
it is
don't
so
know.
like comparatively so short, and there's like so
Like,
much going on.
there's so much going on. And I think that's one thing about, again, it's that recommendation issue. So much of her works are these just condensed dirges of misery.
Yes, actually.
I mean, literally, like, and I say that with love because again, like, not saying we're not fans, but like, so much of her work are just these compact dirges of just absolute misery.
Yeah.
And then classmate shows up, and it's like, did you sacrifice all of your other works to find serotonin and make this?
Yeah, you know what I want to know actually, because when you've read a lot of her works,
Yes.
Classmates truly is the one out. Like it's the odd one out,
Yes.
and it makes you wonder what possessed this person
What
to make this.
happened?
Where did this come from? Why is this? Why is this in this lineup of these completely insane, painful stories?
Because again, none of these characters could meet each other.
No. I don't know. And that is like looking away from the fact that a lot of them exist in completely different, countries and times, because Jane no Subete is set in the 50s.
It is.
And Double Mints is like in this universe, this time.
Yes.
And then Tales of the Kingdom is some sort of parallel fairy tale world where the horses look like those creatures. I don't even know. They call them horses, but they look like those things that they ride in Trigun.
The Thomases?
Yes, that's what they look like.
Or a chocobo?
No, yeah, but like
Girl, let her have her weird horses.
no, it's fine. I don't know if horse would be the word I would use to describe these animals, but it's fine. But yeah, no,
Mo-
none of these characters could meet
yeah.
because it would end in absolute pandemonium and
Yeah,
bloodshed.
it would end in the blood rave from Devil May Cry Baby. That's what would happen.
No, but it's true. And
It would end.
there's a part of me that, what the hell just happened?
Nani?
No, my iPad just decided to just scroll down the timeline on its own. Yeah, no, fine. No, and I feel like there's a part of me that thinks that Jay would come out victorious.
Oh, yeah. Do we want to talk about Jay?
Are we done with double mints? I think it's very hard to say a lot about double mints because it's just.
I think that, like, I'm not going to say it's mandatory reading, but I think if you are curious, mind the tags and
Yeah.
give it a shot, and don't feel bad if it squicks you out. Because I think that's one thing that I will say, like, was a huge part of, like, early fandom, and Carola and I have both talked about this, is powering through something even though you hate it or it, like, viscerally makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, because first of all, this was all you had, and
This is
you
all I had.
already bought it, so you're gonna read it and you're gonna make
Right.
yourself enjoy it because that was
Right.
what we did. There was
My
no space to
experience, yeah.
dislike. Yeah, actually.
My experience with Jane Ostebete. So, mind the tags. If you don't like it, don't make yourself read it. Like, there's a lot that I think fans could and will like about it. There's also a lot that I think fans are going to be like, what the fuck is this? So,
Yeah.
that's one thing that I think is a big common theme of this episode is if you are intrigued by anything we've said, awesome. We will always encourage you to try new things. But also, if you get squicked at any point in time, which is checks notes, a pretty high likelihood,
Yeah.
we're not gonna say shit. We're not gonna shame you, we're not gonna judge you, we're gonna be like, that's valid, and you are entitled to that.
Yeah. And we've been there.
And we've been there.
We have been there.
So I think now is as good a time as ever
Yeah. Yeah.
to talk about Jane Ostebete.
Just the way that your voice just gives out when you say that.
Because again, so like I was in university when I was reading this and I found it, I will never forget. It was in the Yaoi tag on eHentai.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's Yaoi.
But it's. No. Oh my god. I can't even remember where I got it from. And I hadn't read the full thing until now.
And I powered through all of what was available over a couple of days. And then I finally checked and I read that there was like one update and it was that final volume. And I was just, I think by the time I read this, like my mom had died. And I was just like not in a great mental health place because I went like back to school immediately. Like I didn't take time off or anything because that's not a problem that I have. I clearly process trauma in a very healthy way.
Oh, yeah.
Don't overly make myself busy so I don't have to deal with emotions.
No, your coping mechanisms are really healthy, super coping, really good. Yeah.
So like my mom had passed away in June. I studied abroad in July. And I went back to school in August.
Jesus Christ. Dear listener, an actual question that I have asked Amanda at least 2 times is, what do you have against resting? This is an actual question I have asked you.
I did get I got like a week of rest when I got back from Austria, was immediately sick, spent like 3 days catatonic, and then moved back into my dorm for the next college term.
I can't decide whether you are superhuman or just like really super self-destructive. Like it's one of those two. And
Carola, I modeled my entire male personality on Yuki Eri.
yeah, that
So
is
you
not
know,
healthy.
yeah,
You
you know
know,
what the answer to that question is. So I binged Jay no Subete because I was not told what Jay no Subete was all about. And shall we official synopsis, Carola?
yeah, this synopsis I think is actually very lacking because it doesn't really say anything about the story, but I will read it.
What can it say?
I
Can
don't know. Okay.
you?
No, what it says, first of all, Jay no Subete can be translated into either all about Jay
Mhm.
or Jay everything. In this case, it's supposed to be all about Jay because
Yeah.
it's essentially told through retrospective stories, through
Yes.
interviews with people who knew Jay or Jay themselves.
Yes.
So, the official synopsis from this is from Baka because for some reason Jay no Subete has never been released officially in English. I personally think that this is a travesty because I actually really like it, but yeah,
The
no.
the widest eyes humanly possible. I wonder why.
Oh yeah, okay. So it says, even though Jay no Subete is 3 volumes long, each volume is a dynamic story in itself, covering a particular stage of Jay's life. Her life is a dark story, and it's a very psychological manga. Book 1 is about all of Jay's trials and tribulations throughout childhood, during high school, as he tries to find his place in the world, and when he meets the somber honor student, Paul.
So you might notice that I started this off say that this is a yaoi, but there's a her in there.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. Right off the bat, at the end of Jay no Subete, we are meant to understand Jay as living the life of a woman,
Hmm.
or at least someone who is incredibly feminine.
Yeah.
This is not written in a great way.
No.
It is not handled very well.
And I think in part, obviously, this is because it was written in 2004 in Japan,
Yes.
and of course, and then it is set in the 50s
Yes.
in America in
Yes.
a setting where your people are constantly conflating homosexuals, transsexuals,
Yes.
transvestites. They're just like there isn't a clear separation between these identities, and
Right.
Jay themselves doesn't necessarily understand
All
who
of
they
that.
are. Yeah, or
Exactly.
and
And
I think the choice of naming the character Jay is done deliberately because
absolutely.
Jay doesn't have we don't know Jay's full name.
No. We never really learn it. Um so right off the bat we have Jay, who fundamentally as a person is just trauma personified.
Oh yeah. It's
Just
like how many pages into the first chapter before you are faced like really head on with some very graphic incestual sexual assault.
yep.
Yeah. It
Um
it is like from the get-go incredibly in your face.
yes.
Yeah. It's very heavy.
It's very very heavy. It's beautiful, but it's heavy. There are some scenes in there that even I find very disturbing
Yeah.
and don't like. That should tell you guys a lot.
Yeah, and like even if it is like it's classified as yaoi, as BL, like again, we can debate this a lot because we don't really
Hmm.
know what gender Jay
We
was
don't.
supposed to be from the author's point of view, how
Hmm.
Jay truly sees themselves.
Hmm.
But ultimately, don't think there's a single. Maybe there's one sex scene in the entire manga, and there are a lot of like sexual
There's a lot of sex.
events, but I
Yeah.
think there's only one that is actually kind of beautiful and
Mhm.
consensual. And
Yeah.
everything else is just really fucked up. Like it's either an
Yeah.
assault or it's like some sort of self-harm through sexualizing yourself or someone else. Like it's really yeah.
Yeah. So I powered through this on like a night, like volume 1,
Yeah.
which don't do
I
that.
did
Um,
volume 1 and 2 in one night, and then I read volume 3 the next morning.
there's a lot about Jay no Subete that, of course, is informed by Jay and how Jay remembers things,
Hmm.
which I think adds to how fucked up it is. Because it kind of reminds me of when you're a kid and you're explaining like the monsters in your bad dreams, that everything feels so heightened. And
Yeah.
like, not to diminish what the fictional character is going through, but everything just feels so visceral and heightened
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's coming from this perspective of the person who went through it. Uh, this work is consistently not tagged well if you can find it illegally in most places, because again, it's kind of this weird. It is one of the most 2004 manga that I can imagine, where it's just everything that is awful and horrible, but we don't have any other words for it, and it's vaguely gay, so we're going to call it yaoi.
Yeah.
If we're going to throw this at someone and they're not going to know what to do with it, raise his hand. Like,
Yeah, no, but that truly was what it was like. It was like,
yeah.
if there's even anything that seems even slightly gay, just
Mhm.
slap the yaoi tag on it and
Right.
and send it out to the world. And just the fact that you found it on eHentai,
Not a
like
sponsor.
that says so much about the time, first of all,
Yes.
and how we saw those things. Because I think out of all of the Nakamura works that I've read and that I've read this week, I actually like Jane no Subete the most, because I
Right.
think that it is such a compelling story.
Yes.
It is so intriguing, and it is so well done in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But it really isn't for everyone.
It's not.
And I think I am glad I read most of it now that I have the capacity to kind of like understand so many more of these things, and you know, to see that you can put it into, like, I wouldn't put it into the BL category, like
I wouldn't
queer,
either.
obviously it's a queer manga, but like it is psychological, and it is, you know, it's a drama, it's like a coming of age, it's very like it goes into a lot of categories.
It does, and I think, you know, this is the reason why we're doing this episode, really, is because, yeah, you know, if you were an early fan back in our day, when we, you know, when the dinosaurs were still roaming, Jay no Subete is something that you likely would have come across, even just in snippets, because it was so outlandish, and it did have so many of those like really, really shocking moments. This was easily something that you would have seen scrolling on Tumblr or on Zanga, just like one of those stills out of context. The context doesn't make it any better, but like, I think the big thing is again, you know, so what's amazing about this particular episode also is the fact that for at least me in my reading journey with Nakamura Sensei's work, this is reverse. My first introduction was Jay no Subete.
Oh my god.
That
is such a, like, that is like being, not only like, you know, when they want to teach kids to swim and they just throw them into the ocean, but with sharks.
Yeah, just
it's like Jaws is out there, and whoever threw you in the water were just like, well, you better swim.
Yeah,
like, that was you discovering Jay no Subete like that.
Jay no Subete was my first.
Jesus Christ.
I'm very well adjusted.
Everything's fine. God. The fact
Uh,
that you kept on reading Nakamura Sensei after that is actually.
well, and we've discussed this,
Yeah,
where
I
it's like
know.
the fact that any of us stayed in this fandom,
We've
that like,
seen some things.
that like,
Like,
yeah, exactly. After reading Jano Subete, that I kept going back, and I think for me, upon a more recent read, I'm with you that like there are some things that I can process a little bit easier. There's
yeah.
some stuff that I'm more angry about, like the
Oh,
overt
yeah.
racism. Um,
Yeah. There is that. I think we're thinking about the same scene. There is this one scene which is just physically painful to read and absolutely infuriating.
and just disgusting. Like there's and here's the thing. I know it's set in the 50s, but this was written in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
Yeah.
The decision to draw out that scene was a choice because like I have that issue with Game of Thrones where I've openly expressed one of my biggest issues with Game of Thrones is that it is very very rapey, like for no fucking reason. It's like, oh well, it was that's how it was during that time. No, it wasn't. And even so, when this was written, this was an active decision being made by someone
Yeah.
because this is fiction. So even if you want to pull the card of, oh, well, this is set in the 1950s, stuff like this happened, which it did, and it was racist then and awful, this was written in the early 2000s. So,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah. So,
I process that scene actually much worse.
yeah.
Like I
No,
think
I
the
can
first time,
imagine.
I think the first time I was just in shock. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, oh God, no. Now I'm just mad at it.
Yeah. I think especially back then, like I can't
Yes.
speak for myself because I didn't read this back then. I read, I think I must have read probably the first volume at some point,
Mm-hmm.
but not the full thing until now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this happens, I believe, is in chapter 3 or like late in chapter 2. Or like, no, volume 2 or 3.
I want to say it's in volume 2.
Yeah, it's like way at the end, I think. Because it's before he goes to jail. There's just everything. Also, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to put it out here. Okay, first of all,
Yes.
I said this when we were talking in Discord, but I think that one of the things that struck me when I started reading volume 1 in particular, because that is
Mm-hmm.
that is childhood and high school years,
Mm-hmm.
it has the feel of like old school birth of BL. Like it feels
Yes,
like Moto Hagio
it
and
does.
Takemiya Keiko. And I really, really, really enjoyed that. Like this could have been
Absolutely.
Gilbert, right? This could have been Thomas. It's the same
I was
thing. It's
gonna
just
say I was gonna say that, and like I think again, like that's one of the things that's so almost frustrating about it is that this could and I think in a few ways should be one of those Criterion BL works.
yeah. And it's like,
But
yeah, it came out 20 years later, but it fits a lot of those
yeah,
criteria.
but there's just so many reasons why, like in good faith, I just can't recommend this to everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like
No, and then
I just can't. It's irresponsible.
yeah, and then of course I was going to tack on that, because there's a lot of trauma and sexual assault and prison, I am going to throw Banana Fish in there because listen, there are some similarities. Dear God.
I feel like I need to rewatch Banana Fish because
Oh,
I don't know why you're so hurt by it. It kind of went over me. And maybe it's because I read Jane no Subete.
no, exactly.
Maybe,
It's because you.
maybe it's because I've already been damaged by Jane no Subete.
It's just, I think, for me, I just because I literally went in blind. absolutely nothing about Banana Fish. I was like, I'd
Mm.
heard about it my entire manga existence. I'd heard people mention it, and people were like, oh, it's so sad. It's G's favorite manga. He made a song about Ash and Eiji, like literally, like there's a whole thing. I was like, okay, how sad can it possibly be? I watched Clannad. I was like, when I watched the first season of Clannad, everyone kept telling me how sad it was, and I didn't think it was that sad. So I was like, I've heard this before. This ain't my first rodeo. Goes into Banana Fish. I was like, this is not okay. They weren't kidding.
So yeah, maybe it's the fact that I read Jane Stabete like in a
Yeah,
formative
no.
part of my career that Banana Fish just kind of like washed over me. But Sadazan might made me cry a lot.
But yeah, but that too, though.
Sadazan might
Oh
make me
god.
cry a lot. And so
Sorazama, like, Sorazama is such a trap. It's like,
it
oh,
is.
look at this cute, quirky, what the fuck is going on thing. It's
Well,
very gay, it's very colorful, and then it just
yeah.
stabs you.
Well, and I think again, like that's one of the issues that we have, like with Jane Stabete, is that, like, yeah, like if you go in volume 1, it does look like Life of Tomorrow or something like that. Like it looks like this very like beautiful, interesting, just like point of view character study, and then it just takes out a frying pan and hits you over the head.
Yeah. I mean,
with
apart from because, Kazuteki no Uta also literally opens
Mhm.
on a very dubious sex scene with Gilbert, like, whoring himself out to someone to gain something. So, but it is,
Yes.
again, this was in, it wasn't published until 79 or something because Takemiya Keiko refused to censor it, and it's not anywhere close to how graphic like the first assault in Jane no Subete is. But apart from that scene with the father, like way at the beginning, absolutely, very much looks like any like
And
high school. Like it's just just miserable gay boys at these boarding schools,
with
just
elaborate
suffering.
uniforms, just full of malaise and ennui. And that's something that I think is so interesting about, especially like the BL genre, because like even Sarazanmai, I don't think is technically considered to be a BL. Like it just has gay shit in it.
Yeah.
That like so many of the works that are emblematic of this genre are these like horrendous bait and switches of like, and horrendous as in like the tone shift, not that they're bad.
Yeah.
Because like,
No,
so
because most of them are really, really good.
yeah, we both talk about how much we love Sarazanmai, but that tone shift,
yeah,
is a lot, and Jane Stabete does that. So there's a lot in Jane Stabete that people aren't going to like, and I'm not going to fault anyone for that. There's a lot of reasons not to like it. I, to this day, have some questions about some of the choices that were made in the writing because those were choices.
Yep.
There's a lot of language in there that is offensive to audiences. I'm not even going to say modern audiences. Just it's offensive to audiences.
Yeah.
Like the way that Jay's gender is talked about is the way other races are talked about.
And the way Jews are discussed.
So like, and again, like, it's easy to say like, oh well, everyone's woke now. It's offensive now. No, it was offensive then.
It was offensive then. And it's like obviously we've read unofficial translations, right? Because it doesn't exist.
It does not exist,
and
it can't exist.
Yeah, and I have not read or like looked at the Japanese. I don't know how it corresponds translation wise, like what choices were made. So we can't speak to that. But seeing as this is the context that we have, and this is the language that we have, and even if the language might be different in Japanese, the portrayal is still the same, and the
Yeah.
portrayal is
Checks notes.
just
Not great.
not great. Just just like things like, and I mean, I'm not saying that this isn't realistic. I'm not saying that these aren't things that don't happen, but
Hmm.
there's just something like with Paul visiting the aunt and her being all, oh, I don't consider you a Jew like your dad because you, if you hadn't converted to Christianism, do you really think I would have acknowledged you as my nephew or whatever? I'm like over here like, oh my god, lady, that is not a nice thing to say.
That's not a nice thing to say.
Right. No, like, but she's like acting like she's doing him some great favor, and like he is risen from whatever pit of sin his father, who by the way was killed by Nazis in a concentration camp. And she's over here like, I, out of the goodness of my heart, have taken you in, and I care for you, even though it's like, lady. No,
So,
it's
like, it feels like such a cop out to be like, oh, well, this would be offensive to modern audiences. It's offensive. End of sentence.
it is offensive.
It's offensive. Like, that's the end of the sentence.
Like that doesn't necessarily mean that, again, because we've talked about authorial intent, and Nakamura Sensei doesn't necessarily share the sentiments of these characters. Like the
Correct.
characters have their own reasons for having these these attitudes to various groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not, like, we can't say,
But
we don't
also,
know.
like,
Yeah,
this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum.
no.
And I think, especially, and like, you guys have heard me talk about this ad nauseum, when it comes to racism coming out of Japan, I feel like sometimes Western audiences give them a pass when sometimes you need to call a spade a spade. There was a little TikTok that I watched that it was, hey Japan, how did you make everyone forget about your war crimes against people? And I think it was Unit 731. It's like, how did you make everyone forget about that? And like, the joke is that, oh, it was anime. We created Astro Boy, and that's how we got everyone to forget about our war crimes and stuff like that. But it's like, I feel like sometimes when stuff like this happens, we do give a pass to mangaka, and especially with something like this, it's a period piece. We definitely give passes, and I'll encompass this to all creators. That, oh, well, it was a different time. Of course, of course this character would have been anti-Semitic. You're writing fiction. You didn't have to do this. You're writing fiction. This wasn't necessary. Oh, unless you're writing an autobiography, and that person was, you are still master of this universe. You are choosing this.
And it's also, it's one thing to say, because how did Japan make people forget about their war crimes? Well, it starts by not teaching them, right? Not like, there's not a lot of education on, for instance, World War II in Japan, like, in general. And in general, it's kind of like, I'm sorry to drag the US into this, but it's kind of similar in the sense that the most important part of learning history in some countries is to learn only the history of that country, and you don't learn world history. So Japan in general isn't very educated on what's happening around the world. That said, if you're writing a period piece, it would make sense that you deep dive into that period and educate yourself. So
yeah. There's a lot of racial stuff in Jano Subete that I think makes it like, it's the racist stuff and just the pure amount of horrible sex crimes that make this very, very hard to recommend.
Yeah. I think if you can stomach it, and you're able to like look at it critically, and like,
yes,
I would recommend it, just because it is a very interesting read, and I think it's good.
Yes.
But I absolutely understand if you don't want to, like, if you read that first chapter and you go, nope, I understand.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's really like the takeaway from this episode is like if you've heard us talk about all this stuff and you're like, hey, I'm Jano Subete curious, you know.
New sexuality just dropped.
It,
Jada Savetta Cures. Oh my god.
the worst possible.
Oh my god.
No.
Oh god.
And you know, we have in our outline mind the tags, but the problem is with a lot of Nakamura Sensei's work is that it's not tagged well, especially when it's licensed officially. So like, yeah, I found Jano Subete under just the Yaoi tag.
That is horrific.
Because
let me just look it. I'm gonna look it up on Baka and see what it says, like what the tags say, because I think Baka or like manga updates is the best place for these things. So let's see what they say. Let's have a look at the tags. Thank God for this iPad.
Thank you, iPad.
Jano Subete. Let's see. Okay, so genre-wise, it is tagged as adult drama, gender bender, psychological slice of life, yaoi. But then you have the categories, and they are all. Wait, show all. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna read out the ones that are in the bigger fonts.
Okay.
Abusive authority figure, adopted protagonist, all boys dorm, androgynous male lead, child abuse, childhood trauma, dead family members, incest, hidden past, mistaken gender, orphans, prison, rape, roommate, seduction, tragic past, transvestite, unwanted pregnancy, prostitution, and so on. Group intercourse, dead parents, estranged
really?
And then there's like this little tag that says glasses wearing male lead. So like you'll get a meg on a character if you can just withstand all of these other things. Angst, attempted murder, attempted suicide, character growth.
Where? Oops. Oops, gross.
I don't know. Rita, maybe?
Oops.
Maybe.
Oops is growing. Fucking where?
Maybe they mean it literally because there
like
is
Jen basically gets older.
Yeah. There is one specific scene where someone looks at Jay and comments that they've grown taller.
Fucking what? Character growth. Fuck off.
But yeah, no, like that list, like the list is so long. There are so many tags, but like there are so many obviously not positively connected to, like they're not positive.
Well,
the connotations are not
and
great.
it's one of those limitations of tags that, you know, because like the scene that I have in mind, group sex isn't the word I'd use for that.
No.
That's not.
It's like, you know, that one is, it's like blaxploitation, snuff, gun violence, rape of a potential minor.
He is a minor.
Yeah.
I hate that scene. And that's something that literally happens.
And you know that scene, it's like, what's almost worse about, you know, I mean, obviously that scene is literally, I think, the worst that happens in this entire manga.
I would agree.
It is so, and it just goes on.
It's so such long. A long scene.
And it's so visceral. It is so visceral. And, but then after, you know, when he's picked up and like saved, they initiate. It's one of those, you know the BL yaoi trope of my dick will fix you. No, nothing.
No, therapy will fix you.
Like right now, what you need is the emergency room. You need stitches. That's what you need.
Yeah, it's the 1950s, so they're probably gonna give you like opium or something. Uh,
Yeah.
it,
Which I believe they did at
they
some
did.
point also, yeah.
Yeah, he becomes a drug addict. What the fuck is Janos? What fever dream is
No,
Janos
and then
Sabete?
there's this one scene that is like, oh, you're feeling out of it, whatever. Do you want some opium? No, don't offer them opium.
Please don't give them opium. There's
That is no.
Janos Sabete is a fever dream of misery.
Oh god. And then I just remember, do you remember the scene when the teacher comes to the nightclub where Jay sings?
Yes.
Yeah, there are.
Listen, so when Carola said blaxploitation snuff film with gunplay, she's not kidding. That literally happens.
Yeah, and it is a lot worse
Yeah, if you
than
think
what that.
hearing that sounds bad, it's 5 times worse. And again, as we were talking, that's a choice.
Yeah.
That's a choice. I don't care if it's set in the 1950s. It doesn't fucking matter. That's a decision you're making.
Yeah.
And I would argue it's a bad one.
Yeah, it really is. And there's no reason.
There's literally no reason.
There's no reason. Like that scene, I mean, that scene would have been horrible either way, but a choice was made there. That
And
just
I
adds
would argue,
a whole.
yeah. And I would argue it's the wrong one. And again, like if you for whatever reason are enthralled and curious, and you get to that scene and you're like, bye. None of us are gonna fault you for that.
No, we're not gonna blame you. Like it is hard.
It's hard.
It is absolutely awful.
And I think what's so frustrating about Jay no Subete especially is that I feel like it's on the precipice of being something that should and could be remembered as something great. I feel like it is so close to being something that we should remember as like this great pillar of BL. And I don't say any of that to bash the work. Like I still choices made, there's still a lot of it that I think is quite, I'm not going to say good, I'm going to say compelling.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, compelling is
like
yeah.
I feel uncomfortable saying like it's a good read. It's not.
No.
But there's a lot about it that is very compelling, that is interesting, that does make you uncomfortable in the way that I feel like sometimes good art should. Not all the time, but then there's just like those couple little moments, and by couple I mean several moments, where it just tips over and it's like, even if this is art that's supposed to make me uncomfortable, I shouldn't have to suffer. So like it kind of reminds me of like A Clockwork Orange, which is that bit right there. Where like I've seen A Clockwork Orange once. I'm good.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
I'm not going to say you're not missing much, but if you are curious, if you need a palate cleanser after Jay no Subete, A Clockwork Orange is great.
Right now I think I'm good. I'm gonna.
Yeah, after this I'm gonna go watch some Hitalia. I need cleanse. I need to be cleansed. I need to go to church.
We're gonna order food and commemorate the sinking of the Titanic. So we're gonna watch the film because that's what we do on April 14th. Let us.
Carola, why are you gay?
I don't know.
Why are you gay?
Gay life chose me. Can't help it. Can't.
This is us running away from Jay no Subete. So luckily now we have better tags available for Jay no Subete. So if you get in, but again, like I said, like that scene where they said group sex, that is not how I would describe that scene.
No,
that is a very misleading tag. And again, at least Jay no Subete, I feel like, is fucked up enough that no one in their right mind, unless you're just a sadist, would recommend this to someone without 15 layers of context.
Yeah.
Like, I made the mistake of recommending double mints because, again, in comparison, this
Oh,
one isn't as bad. In comparison.
in comparison.
In comparison, double mints is a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And then Classmates is just heaven. You've suffered
Yeah.
through all of this.
Like, truly.
Um so what are some common themes in Nakamura Sensei's body of work?
That is
There's,
on one list.
there's a lot of incest just across a lot of their works. There's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
incest.
I'm also gonna put, wait,
Oh, how dare you?
there you go.
Family drama, just put that in all caps. There's so many bad families.
Truly.
Just
Truly.
the worst fucking families. Just awful families.
Honestly.
Twins and threesomes, correct. Like there's a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Actually,
like,
yes.
again, because I keep coming back to Tales of the Kingdom, since this is
Mhm.
it is for us the most recent release, because it's being released in these beautiful hardcovers right now. It's actually quite an old manga,
Mhm.
but there are two sets of twins, and there is similar to, is it Double Mint, where there's at one point a threesome where there's like a man, there are two men living with a woman.
Yes.
Or is that no? Or is that Janus? But I don't know. I read them back to
I
back.
think
Everything
they
is
happen
kind of,
in both.
yeah, and also in Tales of the Kingdom, there are two cases of that. There is the one, like the preface story, like the one shot story, and
Mhm.
then in the like the main body of the work, there is a scene where the king takes his servant into his bedchambers and tells him to strip so he can have sex with the queen.
Yes.
And there's a whole there's a lot of threesome polyamory stuff happening, but the polyamory isn't always
Consensual.
consensual. Yeah. It's just
So we're not going to call it polyamory.
no.
Just truly one of the best art styles in the game.
Honestly.
Just and it's again like if there was ever I remember seeing the cover of Jane no Subete, and again like just the cover, just the title, and no tags. This is
Yeah.
Life and Tomorrow, right? Like this is like okay, cool. Like I know what I'm getting into.
The cover for volume 2 with Jay in the Shibari bondage,
Yes,
so beautiful. It's so
like
beautiful. But
just
it's just
gorgeous. There's a lot of murder
so
and a
much
lot of
murder.
death. And then just a lot of like very very heavy psychological storytelling because like even Classmates like it has a decent amount of angst. It's at a much lower like stakes scale because
Yeah.
the stakes of that series are not as monumental because they're just high school boys, but it still feels in so many ways just as devastating as some of the horrible things that happened to Jay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what Nakamura Sensei is good at is that like everything feels very deeply. Everything hurts in a way that is very realistic and human. And I know I've told the story a million times about like me reading Jane Osubete and like just feeling it too much. And it's like one that speaks a lot to like what I've been through in my life, but I also think that it's not that hard, despite how objectively terrible Jay's story is, for you to immensely feel for them. I think in a lot of ways it is like good art that even if you haven't one to one been what Jay is going through, you have felt those feelings.
Yeah.
And I think it's that makes I think Nakamura Sensei's work so frustrating. That I think they're so good at making you feel. But then there's just these things that just make it so hard to recommend. because that's a masterclass. Like, I've been through some stuff, but I have not been through what Jay has been through. Jay's life makes me look like I've just gone through an idyllic Candyland.
Yeah.
But when I was reading that, I had just lost my mom, I was going through stuff. I felt what Jay was feeling. I felt that. I could connect to that. I felt almost too much.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was painful to go through. But that's good art. That's amazing art. That's what art should do.
Mm.
But then again, because of some of the choices that are made in this work, it feels really, really off recommending it to people.
Yeah. But I also want to add, like,
Yes.
I feel like when I was reading it now, that kind of like, because I appreciate like the storytelling. I really appreciate, like you said, like how compelling it is. And I feel like it's kind of like the kind of thing that you absolutely, like, you would recommend it to a scholar, because there are so many, like, there's just so much to analyze and to pick up on and to set into context with, with BL history and manga history and media history and all of these things. And it's just so good in that aspect. So I think that those are mostly the eyes that I equip to look at this with.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that you sit down with as entertainment. But at the same time, I don't want to, like, it's not tragedy porn, because it is, like...
It's misery porn.
But it's cohesive and compelling. It's not just...
It's not that... It's not that in a pejorative sense, because I get where you're going.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of BL that just, like, throw bad things at characters because they can.
Yeah.
Maki Murakami.
Don't. Listen.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Just throws bad things at characters because they can.
But, I mean, she's not even the worst, though.
I didn't say she was the worst. I just said she was an example. There are worse.
Oh.
But we'd be here all day.
It's like, just pulls out a banjo, starts listing early 2000s works.
Right, just puts on the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack on vinyl and starts listening to works that traumatized us from the early 2000s.
Oh my god. The things we've seen.
And I feel like I say this all the time. How I stayed in this fandom, I don't know. With what I've been through, I don't know why I'm still here.
No, it's someone should study you, probably. Like, just
don't. You're not gonna like what you find.
A case study.
You're not gonna like what you find. You're not. So why are we doing this? As we said at the top of the show, this is not meant to be a comprehensive look at the mangaka's body of work. There are so many other titles.
So many.
But this is a great example of what especially early fujin and even modern fujin deal with when it comes to recommendations and tagging.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for me, again, like, this journey was done backwards. I started with Jano Subete. I read Doublemint, and Classmates was the heaven that I was supposed to reach after going through 2 layers of suffering. This was my divine comedy.
Yeah.
That you start in hell, you go through purgatory, and then you end in heaven.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, you like, your path is the better one, because it's like, if you go from Classmates to Jane no Subete, like...
But I don't think you can. That's the thing. That is a one-way trip. I don't think, unless you are surrounded by people that don't like you, no one, unless you are surrounded by people who don't like you. If you have come up, again, Carola and I, convention elders, and some 18 plus youth comes up to us and says, I really like Classmates. Can you recommend anything else by this mangaka? We would say no.
No, you know what? I might say, actually, yes, there's this sweet little anthology josei thing called Maiden Railways. Read that. Like, yes. That one is very nice.
We would point you in the direction of the 15 sequels to Classmates, and like a toddler iPad, like an iPad toddler, just sit you down with those and
Yeah.
walk away so we can go cry over Jano Subete
And it's
because
like,
all the
but
war
okay,
flashbacks came back.
but just to bring back, our favorite subject of conversation, the antis and the puritans, like they wouldn't even be able to handle classmates right now
They
because
would.
of Harasen. And even without Harasen and Ari sensei, there's like they aren't able to handle characters having arguments, like regular arguments where you say things you end up regretting.
I feel like I feel like if you showed a Puritan Jano Subete, they'd just explode.
Yeah, maybe that's the solution actually.
It just, I love that we've become our parents. Like, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
You want to say everything's problematic? I hope you enjoy this black exploitation snuff scene.
Oh god.
Right.
And like, in the same ballpark, happy Kuroshitsuji Day to everyone who celebrated yesterday. I have not seen the new episode yet. I will get on that. But I have seen the implosion on the internet.
I do love that everyone is reminded that Sebastian's hot as fuck. Like
who,
everyone forgot.
who needs to be reminded? How do you forget?
Like everyone
Oh my
forgot that
God.
Sebastian was hot as shit, and it's like, oh my good heavens! And it's like,
No, I am ready. I am absolutely. I just haven't, like I said before we started recording, I haven't been home for 2 days.
she is
So,
not.
I don't know what's happening in the world. But yeah, no, I saw the episode came out and I saw Twitter exploded.
I miss my. I used to roleplay as Sebastian a lot.
Oh. Are you returning to your sins?
No. No, I would like to not go back to there. But this is the landmine that, as Fujin, we still have to deal with.
Yeah.
Is that, again, we talked about this a lot with that piracy episode that we just did, where because a lot of these works aren't officially licensed, those tags are dependent on other people saying what it is. And because of that, sometimes those tags are not appropriate. And I would hate to give someone one of these works and they not fully understand what they're getting into. Me in college trying to plow my way through Jano Subete, hoping that one day it will stop being sad.
It won't.
It never was. It was always sad.
Yeah.
But we still deal with those limitations to this day, which is why we covered this episode. And I think one thing that I know that I've gotten better at when it comes to recommending and recommendations in this space is trying to meet people where they are. So, especially now with the access to BL that we do have, if someone comes in and says, "Oh, I really like, like your gay sports anime," cool, I can recommend you something closer to that. Or, hey, I really like isekai for some fucking reason. Cool, I can recommend you something closer to that. Versus me trying to tailor my experience, which was a hot mess. Because I think physically, like the gauntlet that a lot of us early fans went through would just, I say it all the time, I don't know how so many of us are still fans. Like, we objectively had bad experiences.
Yeah.
I don't know how so many of us are still fans.
Like, I truly think that a lot of it is just like denial. Because
Yes.
for me, it was like every time I encountered something that squicked me or that made me very uncomfortable, I would still read it. Like, I would plow through it. I would try to pick out the things I liked and then tell myself it wasn't that bad because I'm supposed to be a fujin. And I didn't know that word, but like, I'm supposed to be enjoying this. So I will just keep looking until I keep finding these things that I enjoy.
Right.
And then, just blocking out all of the terrible things.
And I wonder, especially for us Western fans, how much of that is because, especially early yaoi fandom, was so closely linked to hentai culture. And hentai guys, especially in the US, got fucking off on just reading the most abhorrent shit.
Yeah.
So, like, I know for me, a lot of my first introductions to BL were from hentai bros that
Hmm.
had their hentai Bibles, which were just printed out pages of the most awful sex stuff you could imagine being
Yeah.
shown this at 14, 15 years old. So I wonder how much of this is that we were set up to think that, especially BL, because it is under this hentai umbrella, is really just this game of attrition.
Mm.
And and almost like living too deeply into that term of, oh, we're rotten, we're lewd, we're this, but being rotten or being lewd doesn't mean that you don't have standards or
No.
values or trauma that makes some of this stuff difficult to
Yeah.
process. I,
And
I think yes.
I think that that is something that, even though clearly the youth of today
Mm-hmm.
need to go out and touch some grass and like get a proper perspective of things, but at
Mm-hmm.
least, they are capable, unfortunately too capable, of saying, this makes me uncomfortable, I don't
Right.
want to consume this kind of content, but then they're going about it in the wrong way.
Right.
Whereas we were taking that idea of, oh, you're supposed to be lewd, you're supposed to be rotten, and we just became these horrific edge lords who were just like out
Yes.
there trying to outdo each other in like what we
Yes.
had seen, and just like, and then that became like a rite of passage, which was like, well,
Right.
I saw this, so you have to see this.
Exactly, and like we would subject each other to it. Like, well, I
Yeah,
survived Jano Subete. Now it's your turn. And
yeah,
it's
and
like,
then
what?
yeah, and like, again, and I know I have said this to the point where people might think that I have an enthusiastic relationship with this ova. I do not. But Boku no Pico used to be a thing that you would show your friends to
Yeah,
traumatize them,
absolutely.
quote unquote, like, oh, let me traumatize you. And it would be a thing because it wasn't, we didn't take it seriously. It made
We
us
didn't.
uncomfortable, but it was just part of the experience because at that point you'd seen so many things.
Right, like I remember showing my guy friend that one dojin that Murakami Sensei did that's basically just Yuki and Suichi, but as a vampire and a vampire hunter,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
gunplay in it. I remember showing that to my friend, and he's like, "Is this what you read, like for fun?" And it's
Is it
like,
like, yes? Question mark.
yeah, like yes? Question mark. So yeah, like so much of early fandom was this like edge lord dick measuring contest of like,
Yeah,
oh, well, like, oh, it's almost like hazing. Like, oh, I
yeah.
read this horrible thing. Now it's your turn. And
It
like,
was awful.
why were we like? I mean, I know why we were like
Yeah,
this,
no.
but now you've heard us say ad nauseum today. It's like, hey, here's a really really great work. Literally, don't read it. Like, like here's a great work that both of us like, but but let it
Yeah,
remain buried at the bottom of the sea.
yeah, and like, and again, like, we cannot, if you weren't there, like, you cannot stress enough just how few options we had and how we just had to power through. There is this one, oh my god, I can't remember the name of it right now, but there is this one hentai which has like 2 episodes, and one of the episodes has a very brief scene which is tagged as yaoi. Like, it isn't, because I do think that there's a woman instigating the whole thing. It is,
Mhm.
and it is essentially dubcon at best, where there are two men having sex kind of against their own will because this woman makes them do it. And there's no prep, there's no lube, there is blood. And it's just like, I just remember watching this and just like powering through because, I mean, I'd seen all the other yaois. This was my only option. This was all that was left. I have to watch this.
I feel like there's an episode topic in there somewhere of like that almost like forced coming of age that we
Yeah,
all had
yeah,
to go
yeah.
through. Because yeah, like, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be this big, bad, lewd person. I should be able to tolerate this. And I remember when I first read Jano Subete and like going to like my, little like shitty chat rooms, they're like, oh, you read that? That's nothing. And like feeling
Yeah.
bad that I was affected. Like, I was weak
Yeah.
for being deeply affected and kind of high-key offended by Jano Subete. And like, and going to like, my little shitty, yaoi chat rooms back in the day. And like shitty, just like, to make fun. And like, oh, you read that? That's nothing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And like, this the lack of empathy that you would get.
It was awful.
When you came across a squick, when you were triggered, when something was objectively not okay. I think there's an episode in there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like that has informed so much of older fandom, and I think it's part of why this particular generational clash is so prominent. Is that we were just wrung through it.
Yeah, but then at the same time, and just to put like a disclaimer pin in there, like, obviously we were awful, and we were awful to each other. We were not very good at like showing empathy and understanding for why someone might not want to watch something or read something. But at the same time, it was very much everyone aboard their own ship, and like not, I mean, you could feel belittled, you could feel less than, you could feel humiliated because you were affected by something where you're supposed to like take it so well. But at the same time, we weren't doxing each other, we weren't giving each other like death threats, we weren't expecting others to not consume the content, but we were blaming ourselves when we weren't able to consume that content. So it was a very different approach.
So let us know if that's something that you want us to cover, because I feel like there's an episode in there.
I would love to talk more about
that. Because even thinking about it, because like I remember having that with Devilman Crybaby a little bit, that I remember watching that and feeling really broken and like almost feeling bad that it affected me. Like, I've been watching anime for 20 years. This shouldn't bother me. I've seen it all. I survived the whole Full Metal Alchemist thing with Nina the Chimera. I should be stronger than this. And I watched that like in like my mid-20s, like my mid-late 20s. And it just feel, even Sazamai, I had that a little bit where it's like, why am I crying over these dumb Kappa children? Why am I sad? And like, and feeling weak, feeling like bad that this affected me. Yeah, there's an episode in here. We're gonna do that. We might do that towards the end of the year.
Put it on the list. We have a list. If you have a topic you want us to cover, please tell us. We'll put it on the list.
We'll put it on the list. But yeah, so that was a lot.
Yeah. If you want to pay for our therapy,
you can do so at patreon.com/the Yaoi Shelf. If we get to $150, we'll do Loveless for Halloween.
We are doing Loveless for Halloween.
If we get to $150.
Oh my god.
If we get to $150, we will do Loveless for Halloween.
Okay.
So you guys know what you need to do. You did it last time. You know what you need to do. Carola, where can... actually, let's go to what we're doing next month, because next month is going to be so much fun.
Yes!
Carola, would you like to tell the audience at home what we're doing next month?
Yes, we are going to be talking about BL gaming, but not only that, we have brought in an expert. So we are going to be joined by the lovely Blurdy Otome, who does...
so excited.
Oh my god, it's so exciting.
Literally so excited.
I am so ready for my inferiority complex to jump out as I board BL games that I do not play.
And I've played like one or two.
Yeah.
And, we talk about this a lot is I think this is the year of addressing blind spots, but calling in experts.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is so exciting. It's going to be so good.
So truly we called in an expert in Blurdy Otome. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
You can find us in most places on the social internet at the Yaoi Shelf, including our 18+ Discord server, in which you mostly get to see me be unhinged about birds.
Where I am generally MIA.
Yes.
Because that is my brand. Though I do think if we're going to watch Doublemans, I think we should make a thing of it and like have like a movie night in the server.
We should. We should have...
Yeah.
We're just going to watch Doublemans to make everyone sad.
Grab your popcorn. We're going to get traumatized, bitches.
Also, we threw around the idea of having a book club in Discord. Let us know if that's something that you guys are interested in.
Mm.
Carola and I are going to talk about it off camera a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff happening throughout the rest of the year. We have some really, really cool things coming up.
Yes.
We have our Q3, Q4 meeting happening soon because our calendar just stops. Our calendar
Yeah, and we just went, yeah, that's enough for now. I don't want to. Let's just.
basically both of us got overstimulated in our last meeting, and it's like we're done.
Yeah.
But
But I think that's a good plan because you never know what's going to happen,
yeah,
in
we try not to plan too far in advance, just because we like being able to respond to trends. But we also have to plan a certain amount in advance because both of us are severely ADHD and nothing would get done.
Yeah, remember before we used to do that and it would be like we were done with recording and it would be like, okay, what are we doing next month? And it would just be panicking.
Just scrambling. Like, what are we covering? Carla, have we talked about everything? Just no.
Oh yeah, so we're getting better at
I think we're
planning.
doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Your engagement helps us out a lot, so feel free to leave us a like or a comment and share. Uh, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for sticking with us
Thank
on this
you.
episode. And, again, if you are curious about any of Nakamura Sensei's work, you know, I think both of us would be remiss to say don't try it if you're curious, but also please give yourself the grace that we didn't give ourselves. That if you do not like it, or you are offended, or it triggers you, leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not,
Self-care is
yeah,
important.
this is
There's
not the angst Olympics. You don't have to stay. No one is making you.
you
No
know,
one is going to think lesser of you.
I am going to bring in some good old Norwegian knowledge because we have something called fjellvettreglene, which is like basically uh, the rules for mountain wisdom, essentially. And one, it's like 10. I think there are 10. I don't know. I don't go out into the woods. But one of the points, like, it's kind of like the 10 commandments for when you go into the Norwegian wilderness. And one of them is there is no shame in turning around. And I think that we should all live by that when we read our classic BL.
I just love your weird elven language.
I love throwing weird Norwegian things at you.
I
Like,
adore your strange elven language. Just no, I'm over here realizing that there is nothing like leaving your geographical area to realize that you have an accent.
where have you been?
Waco
Oh
when I
yeah,
went,
right.
but that's like a different region of Texas. It's like, and I'm traveling next month outside of the state, so I will be very, very aware that I have an
Hmm.
accent. I know
I
I'm
think
leaving the state.
how many days does that take to leave Texas? Like how many days does it take
Well,
to get out of
I'm
Texas?
flying, so it takes a few hours. Driving, it's like I think it's 2 or 3 days.
Oh my god.
It's so it also depends on where you're trying to go. So I think I'm like 10 hours to Mexico. I'm probably about 6 to Louisiana. And if I wanted to go towards New Mexico, that's like 10.
Jesus.
If I wanted to go up, that's like 10, 12.
Texas is very big.
We're so big. Um, but thank you guys for listening.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. Go do some self care because this one was a lot.
Yeah. We're
Uh,
sorry if
we're
just
not
us
sorry.
talk. No, okay, but if you powered through this, I
Yes.
mean, good job, but also you really didn't have to. Like, if you were triggered by the topics that we mentioned in the beginning with the trigger, like this was a rough episode. I feel like there's a
This
lot.
was, It just sums up Nakamura since this sounds kind of rough, guys.
I think, yeah, I think I really want to do more episodes focusing on like one mangaka or like uh specific works.
We could do a
But I
Harada
feel,
episode.
yeah, because I feel like it would just be more of these.
We need to do okay. Let us know what mangaka you'd like to see us do that for, because I feel like a Ko Yonada episode is easy to do. A Harada episode is easy to do.
Takunaga Hinako.
Yes. Let us know
Love it,
in
love it, love
comments
it.
below what you guys think. But thank you for listening, and we will
Thank
see
you.
you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.